Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza, and if you're new here, you couldn't possibly know that I am on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business, in your marketing career, providing, of course, what you need to be successful in your business, in your marketing career, is to know more about and be implementing more efficiently, more effectively, and more enthusiastically sales and marketing in your business, which is, of course, what you need. You need more customers more profitably. And eventually everything you need to achieve that will be here on this channel. And let's not pretend that there's not already lots here to help you with that already. So what goes on here is I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. That's the series that happens on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I pull in anyone I can find with experience to share with you if you are looking to be more successful in your business. Every other Wednesday, Melanie Farmer comes through and we speculate wildly about about the marketing news and what it might mean for you in your business, in your marketing career. And on the other Wednesday, I review so you don't have to. On a Thursday, I'm here thinking out loud. And on a Friday, we respond to the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. So if that sounds like it might be interesting and useful, now would be the very best time to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey. Now, if you are catching this on the day that it goes live, it will be a Wednesday, and it's the other Wednesday where Melanie Farmer isn't here to speculate wildly about the marketing news, where I am reviewing so you don't have to. And the good news is I've read another book. Well, up until about 6 weeks ago, I was reading a book a week, and I've fallen off that, so I need to get back on it. But this is a book that I've read, and the book is called, it's George S Clason's The Richest Man in Babylon. Now, what I want to say before I start is that I don't want to talk about wealth. I'm not an expert in wealth. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm not particularly interested in being wealthy. But it seems to me that individuals who run their own businesses, their small businesses, run their finances, certainly I did, very closely to their business finances. So your business finances and your personal finances, if you are a small business, are typically very closely related. So I think this is relevant. I think, if I think about it, that it has to be 50% bringing money in. That's what I can help you with, bringing money in profitably. That's what I'm here to help you with through your sales and marketing. And then the other 50% has to be how you manage your money. And I say this all the time. I'm going to say it again. If you don't have a plan for your money, I can guarantee you that somebody does, okay? So you need to be making a plan for your money, because otherwise somebody's going to relieve you of it. Now, it says on the front cover of this book, The Richest Man in Babylon, that this is the success secrets of the ancients and the most inspiring book on wealth that has ever been written. So I don't know if this is the actual success secrets of the ancients. The mechanism here is it kind of operates on a narrative around parables. So this was written by George S Clason in the 1920s, using Babylon as the blank canvas, if you like, the blank canvas, but as the canvas for telling these stories, these parables about how you get to be wealthy. And I have a little bit of an issue with this. Because it's like double fiction, like he made it up about something that he made up, 5,000 years ago. The real question of this book is whether it's still relevant and useful now. And I've got, challenges in questions around that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some of the quotes that I've highlighted from the book to give you a sense of what I got from it and a sense of whether you should read it for yourself. Spoiler alert. You should read this for yourself. If you are interested to be more successful, has to be 50% money in, and it has to be 50% how you manage that money. So let's look at some of the things that caught my attention. So the premise of this book is that it is set in Babylon 5,000 years ago. And Babylon, according to George S Clason, was not the wealthiest city of the ancient world because its citizens were the richest people of their time. It was. Babylon became the wealthiest city of the ancient world because its citizens were the richest people of their time. And this kind of becomes a theme of this thing. Like Babylon, supposedly, it's in ruins now, 5,000 years ago. It was a thriving city, but it was in the desert. So it wasn't on the luscious soil. It didn't have the best trade networks or any of those things. It was the attitude of the inhabitants of Babylon that made it the wealthiest city of the ancient world. not necessarily the good fortune. And that becomes kind of a theme of the book. So the three lessons essentially of the book are Arkad is telling these stories, and he says to his group, you have learned your lessons well. You first learned to live upon less than you could earn. Next, you learned to seek advice from those who are competent through their own experiences to give it. And lastly, you have learned to make gold work for you. So this is the secret to wealth, essentially, according to the Babylonians, according to George S Clason. The secret is put aside something of what you earn. They recommend that you start at 10%. Take advice from people who are experts in what you're looking to invest in, and then get your money working for you. So it's a really very simple 3-step process. The question then is, how do you do that? Which brings us then to the next quote, that what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow. Oh, here we go. What each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. Now, I 100% believe this. There's an interesting way to think about this in this parable where he's talking to the group, and he's like, you all earn different amounts of money, but none of you have enough money. That's annoying. None of you have enough money. So, for example, if you are earning £100,000 a year and you overspend by £10,000 a year, and if you are earning £80,000 a year and you overspend by £8,000 a year, then what the 80,000 overspending by 8,000 demonstrates is that you can satisfy all of your desires for £88,000. So there's no reason for the person who's spending £100,000 to spend £110,000. This isn't the best way. You're going to have to read the book to understand. But the idea is that if you're all earning different amounts, but none of you are managing to live on those amounts, then it suggests that it's something other than the amounts of money. It suggests it's something other than the necessary expenses that are causing you to be poor. Does that make sense? That does make sense. So if one person can live on 80,000 plus and another person is living on 100,000 plus, then the example of the 80,000 plus or the 60,000 plus or the 40,000 plus is that you can live on those amounts of money. And actually what you're doing is deciding not to. What you're doing is allowing things that aren't necessary to become necessary in your mind so that you spend more than you should. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this. You need to go and read this for yourself. But 100%, unless you protest to the contrary, unless you are religiously fanatical about how you hold on to your money, you will not hold on to your money, because our societies and our economies are so sophisticated and the traps are so beautifully designed that you have to be religiously fanatical to escape them. And that's why so few people do, I think, these days. The next thing that is here, okay, so there's a couple of things here. Preceding accomplishment must be desire. And I believe this, thy desires must be strong and definite. Now, I've achieved a couple of things in my life, outside of business maybe. I've given up smoking a couple of times, and I've lost weight a few times. And in both of those instances, I maintain that all you need to do is decide and then be really happy about it. So if you want to give up smoking, you just have to decide, I'm not going to smoke that next cigarette. You don't have to give up all the cigarettes forever, just the next one, and then be really happy about it. And then if you want to lose weight, what you have to decide is, I want to be less heavy, I'm going to eat less junk, and I'm going to do more exercise. But then you need to be really happy about it, and you need to have fun doing it. And it's the same for your business. You know, if you decide, I want my business to be successful, and so I need to invest in marketing and sales, and then I'm going to have fun doing it. And that is how you achieve anything in your life. There is, as far as I'm concerned, no other secret than that. Okay, good. So your desire must be strong. And if your desire is strong, you can achieve anything, I think. There is more gold in Babylon, my students, than thou dreamest of. There is abundance for all. And this is something that Andrew Tate has said recently. Love him or hate him, he says some stuff that is absolutely true. And what he said is that when he was poor, he thought the whole world was poor. And now he's rich, it looks like the whole world is rich. Like when he goes to buy a Bugatti or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, he can't buy one because they're all sold out. Well, how are these things sold out? Because there is more wealth in the world, there are more rich people in the world than we actually even know about. And this comes 100% down to attitude, which is you decide. Do you want to have a scarcity attitude where you think there isn't enough, there certainly isn't enough for you? Or do you want to have an abundance attitude where there is plenty for everyone? And certainly if you're going to be more successful, the abundance attitude, I would argue, and I think most sensible people would argue, is what you need if you're going to be more successful. Okay, so there is more gold in Babylon. Let's have a look. If a man be lucky, there is no foretelling the possible extent of his good fortune. Pitch him into the Euphrates, and like as not, he will swim out with a pearl in his hand, is a Babylonian proverb, because all of this is about self-determination. So I did some personal development at one point in my life, and the lesson from one of these exercises is that the universe applauds action. The lucky person who is thrown into the Babylon River is the one who swims. They're the only ones who have any chance of getting out. Does that make sense? So I 100% believe that. The universe applauds action. Start doing it. Like, if you want to be successful in your business, start doing marketing and start doing it mindfully and start thinking about the effects of the things that you're doing and what are good effects and what are less good effects. And you will eventually get to the point where you will have very effective marketing going on in your business. So for me, 100%, the phrase is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I believe that's 100% true. What you have to do is keep moving. Like, when you resign yourself to your situation, it's over. You're not going to achieve anything for yourself. And that ties in here with the second phrase, the second quote, men of action are favored by the goddess of good luck. 100% believe that. Okay. Another interesting quote. If you desire to help thy friend, do so in a way that will not bring thy friend's burdens upon thyself. So I think there's a couple of things going on here. It's a little bit like the oxygen mask on a plane. Like, you have to put your mask on first. So you have to be in a position of strength if you're going to help somebody at all. But what you 100% can't do is take responsibility for other people, especially if they're not taking responsibility for themselves. So yeah, don't bring other people's burdens on you. Other quotes: better a little caution than a great regret. And we cannot afford to be without adequate protection. So I think he's just saying be careful. I don't know why I highlighted that. Here's an important quote. Being young and without experience, I did not know that he who spends more than he earns is sowing the winds of needless self-indulgence, from which he is sure to reap the whirlwinds of trouble and humiliation. And this is where it's interesting for me, which is, when I was growing up in the 80s, debt was really, really frowned upon. Like, you did not want to be in debt. You did not want to get yourself into debt. And it was really frowned upon. And because we were living in a cash society then, so literally, if the milkman came for his money on a Saturday morning, we didn't have it because my dad got paid on a Thursday and it might all be gone by Saturday morning, then we were hiding behind the sofa from the milkman because we literally didn't have the money. Then debt became available, and I remember everyone frowning at me when I was 18 or 19, and I borrowed money to put a radio cassette player in my car, and everybody was aghast. And then we wind that 30 years forward, and we are living in a debt economy. Everybody's in debt. Countries are in debt to the tunes of trillions of dollars. And this has happened in the last 40 years. So this comes then to the question for me of the book, which is this still relevant? Now, in these parables, they are talking about people buying themselves out of actual slavery in Babylon. And then the question then for me is, does this work if the slavery you have to escape is debt slavery? Now, I would argue that actual physical slavery has to be worse than debt slavery. But because the systems are so sophisticated now, because they are so alluring. So, for example, in the United States, you graduate from college owing tens of thousands of dollars. Is it hundreds of thousands of dollars? In the UK now, you graduate from college owing tens of thousands of pounds. So the debt trap has got who? It's got that percentage of the population who are clever enough to go and invest in themselves in higher education. They're already indebted by the time they enter the workplace. So that's the question. I don't know what the answer is. I think George S Clason will tell you that the answer is take responsibility, put something aside, invest it wisely, get it working for you, and that's how you will get to be wealthy. More quotes. Then a strange thing happened. Then a strange thing happened. All the world seemed to be of a different colour, as though I had been looking at it through a coloured stone, which had suddenly been removed. At last I saw the true values in life. Now this, I think, is 100% true, because it's about perspective. So, as I've said already, people have a scarcity perspective, people have an abundance perspective. You would do better for yourself if you have an abundance perspective. If you think there are hundreds of thousands of people who will benefit from your products and services, that is a much better attitude than thinking there are maybe 4 or 5 people who might benefit from your products or services. In a marketing sense, like for me, you do marketing so you can pick and choose who you sell to. You have to have an abundance. You have to have a confidence that people are going to keep coming. And, this isn't as simple as I'm making it sound. You have to have an attitude of delivering value. You have to have the mechanisms for delivering value. All of those things happening in your business. But you are much better off if you have an abundance attitude rather than not. And it is, for me, a question of attitude. And you can change your attitude in a second. It's like flicking a switch. I don't want to smoke anymore. I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to gamble anymore. I don't want to fail in my business anymore. You change that attitude by answering the question, do I know what's required to change this, and am I prepared to do it? And then once you do that, then the whole perspective changes. The whole world changes right in front of your eyes. So, next quote. Where the determination is, the way can be found. 100% believe that. Gradually, I was able to repay every copper and every piece of silver. Then at last I could hold up my head and feel that I was an honourable man among men. And I think this is important. I saw somebody talking recently about shame, about bringing shame back into our society, because it feels to me like standards are slipping and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Smoking is the very best example. I think I've smoked a lot in my life. I think it's a form of self-harm. And the way it works is you smoke because you don't like yourself, and then you don't like yourself because you smoked, and then you smoke again. And so it goes on and on and on. And tobacco is probably the worst example of this, or the best example of this. They're selling something that has no benefit whatsoever. Like, you're hurting yourself. It's affecting your health. It's affecting your self-esteem. It's affecting the way you smell and the way you engage, the relationships you have, all of these things. And you're giving your money to corporations in return for that. And I think it's because we are running low on self-esteem as a society. And then we end up doing more and more depraved things because we have so little respect for ourselves. This isn't the way I expected this to go. Where there is determination, there is a way, for 100%. When it discloses the problem of a person to pay off his debts, one realizes that conditions upon this old world have not changed as much in 5,000 years as one might expect. Have they? Are we more enslaved now in 2023 than we were in Babylonian times? We're not talking about the actual Babylonian times. We're talking about George S Clason's idea. Are we enslaved now more than we were 100 years ago? Are the lessons still relevant? Of course they are. Of course they are. Put a bit aside. Learn from people who know how to invest and get your money working for you. That's how you get to be wealthy. That man who keepeth in his... This is the other thing that annoys me. He uses this oldie worldy English, which is completely unnecessary and just makes it feel like fiction to me. That because I don't think they spoke oldie worldy English in Babylon. I think they spoke something quite different. Anyway, that man who keepeth in his purse gold and silver that he need not spend is good to his family and loyal to his king. The man who hath but a few coppers in his purse is indifferent to his family and indifferent to his king. The man who hath naught in his purse is unkind to his family and is disloyal to his king, for his own heart is bitter. It's the same thing. So maybe it's true. George S Clason knew about it 100 years ago. Did they know about it in Babylon 5,000 years ago? You have to be taking care of yourself and those around you if you want to be... If you consider yourself to be a responsible person, if you consider yourself to be a valuable contributing person, you have to do those things. I think it's true. I think, we have to take responsibility to be maybe more successful. The man who wisheth to achieve must have coin that he may keep to jingle in his purse, that he may have in his heart love. Excuse me. That he may have love in his heart for his family and loyalty to his king. Thy grandfather said something to me one day that I shall always remember. I like thy cakes, boy, but better still I like the fine enterprise with which thou offerest them. Such spirit can carry thee far on the road to success. And this is interesting because this reminds me of what how's my mind? The E-Myth, the guy's name escapes me, the author, Michael Gerber, and the E-Myth, is it's not enough to make nice donuts. You have to know how to run a business, and it's very different. So for me, the product is a lot percentage of the value and the success you achieve in the world, but it's not all of it. You need to be able to manage things around that as well. Overall, should you read this book? 100% you should read this book. If you are interested to be more successful, it has to be 50% how the money comes in. It has to be the other 50% how you manage your money. Whether the debt slavery of 2023 is more enslaving than the actual enslavement of a fictitious Babylon 5,000 years ago or not, I don't know. The lesson, really simple. Put aside 10% of what you earn. Very quickly, you will not even miss it. And then put that 10% to work. And that's the only way you are ever going to achieve success. And then when that 10% is working for you, if you're putting aside 10% every month, then, you have, what's that, more than a month's salary working for you already. If you do that for 5 years, you've got 5 months working for you, accumulating interest, accumulating income of its own. It's 100%. It makes sense to me. Not that I'm interested in being wealthy, not that I am wealthy, but that if you want to be wealthy, or even if you just want to be more financially secure, you 100% need to be taking charge of what happens to your money. Because like I say, if you don't, somebody else will. Good. I'll say again, don't come to me for financial advice. Do not come to me for financial advice. But if you are looking to be more successful in your business, in your life, then read this book. It will get you thinking about how maybe you can achieve that. Good. So we got to the end. If you found this interesting or useful, please take a second to like, share, subscribe, and comment. That will give me the motivation to continue on this epic journey. And I will be here the next time you come through, hopefully with something as interesting and as useful. Thanks for watching. Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode of Marketing Review. If you found this interesting and useful, then YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this. And this is the latest thing that we've produced. If you haven't yet, and you could take a second to like, share, subscribe, comment, do all of those good things, that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic, epic journey.